Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Common Core. Thank you so much for joining us today, whether you're here with us in person or watching us online. I'm Lynn Munson, president of Common Core. Common Core is a 5-year-old nonprofit organization that conducts research and engages in advocacy around keeping all of the liberal arts and sciences in public K-12 education. As of late, we've also started creating curriculum tools that are very comprehensive of core subjects and content-rich and based on the Common Core state standards. So lest there be any confusion, because sometimes there is, let me just say that we are not the creators of the Common Core state standards. We actually existed before the standards initiative got underway, but we are fans of the standards and we're happy to share the name. We are here today to talk about the status of core subjects in public education. And while we had a very good time with this, the wanted poster idea and of these missing icons, we are here to really discuss a very serious matter, which is the implications of education devoid of science and of history and of art. When asked to describe how they spend their class time, 1,000 teachers surveyed nationwide really painted a very vivid picture of a classroom where reading and math skills take center stage like never before. 3/4 of teachers see other subjects getting short shrift. Top on the list, social studies, art, music, and foreign language being cut the most. A sea change has occurred, largely unintended, that has stripped public education in America down to merely its nuts and bolts. We know students need a full education, particularly those who are perhaps unlikely to acquire a knowledge of history or the arts or the wider world outside of the classroom. So the question before us today really is, how can we use the levers of change available to educators right now to bring some of these key subjects back into the curriculum? And fortunately, we're joined by a host of experts who are going to try to help us find an answer to that question. And finally, we'll hear from David Coleman, CEO of Student Achievement Partners and lead writer of the Common Core State Standards in ELA. The implementation of the Common Core State Standards really has the potential to address many problems, or many aspects, I should say, of curriculum narrowing. But if done poorly, it also has the potential to make curriculum narrowing permanent. So David is going to share his thoughts about the importance of broad and deep subject matter content to the effective implementation of the standards.
Lynn, when you say only the nuts and bolts of reading are being done today, or when we call these things electives, we misspeak. That is, what the research shows us is there is no way to learn how to read without the building of dense knowledge in early grades, which crucially drives vocabulary that is the heart of reading. That is, there is no such thing as doing the nuts and bolts of reading in kindergarten through 5th grade without coherently developing knowledge in science and history and the arts, period. It is false. It is a fiction. And that is why NAEP scores in early grades can improve slightly, but collapse as students grow older. Because it is the deep foundation in rich knowledge and vocabulary depth that allows you to access more complex text. I here stand on the shoulders of giants in this field, not my own research. People like E.D. Hirsch, people like David Pearson, people like a broad set of reading scientists who have long known the importance of vocabulary and knowledge in predicting later achievement. What is a catastrophe is that the seeming focus on reading in early grades was mirrored by a focus on reading only stories, and often much worse than stories, not necessarily of a high quality, to be clear. But that total focus on reading only stories in K-5 and then expanding the literacy block to meet reading standards had the disastrous, catastrophic effect of crowding out history, the arts, and social science in the elementary school, which you see so clearly. But talk about cutting your nose to spite your face. I want to be very clear. We were not expanding reading time. We were devastating reading time by cutting off the knowledge that is the foundation of reading itself. Period. So let's not get confused here that we're adding back nice things that are an addendum to literacy. We are adding the cornerstones of literacy, which are the foundations of knowledge that make the possibility of literacy happen. A word about the arts. The day after writing the standards, which was a rather exhausting time, you might imagine, Sue Weddle, who's one of the women I most admire, a public servant I most admire, who is the head of curriculum in Massachusetts, gathered together 40 arts teachers from around the states to talk about the Common Core's implications for the arts. And we spent 3 days with them because we thought it was so critical to get this right. And I'll tell you what we discovered, which is very interesting. The wrong answer for the role of arts and literacy is to say when you're reading and writing about the arts, you're doing literacy. This is the cheap answer, where the arts teacher becomes the handmaiden of the literature environment or the literacy environment. Much more interesting is to consider, what do the arts do that literacy teachers could learn from? What do the arts tend to be better at than the literacy profession? I will suggest to you two things. No great artist looks at a piece of work once and considers it done. Every artist loves observation, rigorous observation and repeated observation. And at the core of these standards, as all of you in this room know, is more demanding text that will require rereading and careful observation. Secondly, the arts have the great advantage of a single score and multiple interpretations. So for example, when reading Shakespeare, one can see several examples of how others have interpreted this text. And there's no greater masterclass on the role of evidence and interpretation than a single score of music interpreted several ways or a single. There are advantages the arts have to offer insight, and I think we must command and take advantage of those. I think beginning in elementary, to move beyond this kind of phrase 50-50 this kind of just more informational text, the line that has resonated so beautifully with teachers around this country is the Common Core standards restore the rightful place of elementary school teachers as the guide to the world.